Florida's coastline has been locked down, not because of hurricanes or storms, but due to a threat more mysterious and honestly more terrifying than anything the state has ever faced. Hidden beneath the ocean waves lies a network of massive sinkholes. Some are so large that, if one were to open near the shore, it could swallow entire buildings or even skyscrapers. And, the most frightening part, these sinkholes are not static, they are spreading, they are growing. Scientists warn that their expansion could set off a chain of events that no one is prepared for. This is the story of Florida's oceanic sinkholes, the unprecedented danger beneath the water, and what it means for the people, wildlife, and economy of one of America's most beloved states. It all began with what appeared to be routine scientific work. Teams of oceanographers were mapping Florida's offshore waters, studying currents, seabed formations, and marine life patterns. They were not looking for danger, just collecting data. But then the readings on advanced sonar equipment began to show anomalies. At first, scientists thought it was a glitch. Yet, as more detailed scans were conducted, a chilling picture emerged. Deep, perfectly rounded voids stretching down into the ocean floor. Unlike natural depressions, which form slowly over thousands or millions of years, these cavities seem to have appeared suddenly. Remote-operated vehicles were sent down, cameras streaming live images back to researchers. What they found was astonishing. Freshly fractured limestone walls, debris scattered across the ocean floor, and ongoing seismic activity beneath the surface. These weren't just holes in the seabed, they were active, evolving, and dangerous. The ocean did not remain silent about these changes. Marine life began to react in ways that stunned scientists. Fish, dolphins, and whales altered their centuries-old migration routes. Entire pods avoided waters they had frequented for generations. Manatees being tracked for research simply vanished from monitoring devices. Coral reefs, too, were under attack. Previously resilient reefs began bleaching at record speeds. In some areas, the coral seemed to dissolve entirely as acidic water seeped up from the depths. Chemical testing revealed the reason: high concentrations of toxic gases like methane and hydrogen sulfide. These substances were spreading through ocean currents, creating expanding dead zones. Areas that were once teeming with life now appeared empty, lifeless, and, honestly, eerily quiet. Even plankton, the tiny organisms that form the base of the ocean's food chain, behaved unpredictably, affecting the ecosystem from the bottom up. Beneath the water, another danger lurked. Invisible but potentially catastrophic methane hydrates. These are frozen methane crystals, stable only under specific temperatures and pressures. If they destabilize, the results can be disastrous. Released methane is a greenhouse gas roughly 25 times more powerful than carbon dioxide. Its sudden release could accelerate climate change and trigger further instability in other methane deposits, creating a dangerous feedback loop. Even more immediately, methane destabilization can lower the density of seawater. Ships and boats could sink without warning as water becomes unable to support them. Historical records of mysterious ship disappearances may have a chilling explanation rooted in these phenomena. Methane destabilization could also trigger underwater landslides, potentially generating tsunamis that threaten Florida and the wider Caribbean. The significant release could accelerate climate change dramatically and contribute to further ocean warming that might destabilize additional hydrate deposits in a runaway feedback loop. But honestly, the immediate dangers are even more pressing. When methane hydrates destabilize in large quantities, they can displace massive amounts of water and reduce the density of seawater dramatically. This creates conditions where ships and other vessels can literally sink without warning as the water becomes unable to provide sufficient buoyancy. Historical incidents of ships mysteriously disappearing in areas later found to contain methane seeps may have been caused by exactly this phenomena. The release of methane from these hydrates can also create hypoxic zones or complete dead zones where marine life cannot survive. The gas displaces oxygen in the water column, suffocating everything from microscopic plankton to large fish. These dead zones can persist for months or even years, effectively sterilizing vast areas of ocean. Underwater landslides represent another major concern. The destabilization of methane hydrates often triggers massive movements of seafloor sediment. Given the already unstable nature of the sinkhole area, such landslides could cascade across the continental shelf, potentially generating tsunamis that would devastate Florida's coastline and impact communities as far away as the Caribbean and eastern seaboard. Florida's physical landscape is especially vulnerable. Much of southern Florida sits barely above sea level, supported by porous limestone. Changes beneath the ocean floor can directly impact coastal stability. Buildings, highways, bridges and ports, all engineered under previous geological assumptions, are now at risk. Aquifers supplying drinking water are showing unusual fluctuations, with some wells ceasing to flow and new springs appearing unexpectedly. Freshwater contamination and saltwater intrusion could leave millions without safe drinking water. High-rise buildings, airports and critical infrastructure, including the Port of Miami, are being assessed for safety. Offshore oil and gas operations have suspended activities in nearby areas, while engineers evaluate the integrity of pipelines and platforms under changing conditions. The economic impact is already being felt. Florida's tourism industry, worth over $130 billion annually, has begun to contract as travelers cancel bookings. Cruise lines have relocated operations to Texas, Louisiana and South Carolina, creating logistical challenges and straining these facilities. Commercial fishing, an industry worth $2.3 billion annually, has ground to a halt in restricted zones. Seafood processing, restaurants and supply chains are affected. Property values in coastal counties are declining as buyers and investors reassess risks. Insurance companies are scrambling to develop policies for a threat never before imagined. The affected waters are crossed by major shipping lanes used for both commercial and military purposes. Naval submarines regularly transit these areas, and the presence of unstable seafloor conditions could complicate navigation and compromise the security of underwater operations. The Pentagon has classified much of their assessment, but sources indicate that alternative strategic routes are being evaluated. International shipping companies are already rerouting cargo vessels to avoid the affected areas, adding days to journey times and millions of dollars in fuel costs. These delays are cascading through global supply chains, affecting everything from automotive manufacturing to consumer electronics. Ports from Savannah to New Orleans are experiencing unprecedented congestion as traffic that normally flows through Florida is diverted to alternative facilities. So, the scientific data emerging from the Florida sinkholes may also have implications for other coastal regions worldwide. Researchers are now examining whether similar geological conditions exist near other major population centers built on carbonate platforms. Areas under particular scrutiny include the Yucatan Peninsula, parts of the Mediterranean coast, and certain Pacific islands where limestone geology might be susceptible to similar. The presence of massive oceanic sinkholes so close to the continental shelf could trigger a domino effect that undermines the geological foundation supporting millions of people. If these sinkholes continue expanding or begin migrating toward the continental edge, they could undercut coastal stability in ways that make current sea level rise projections seem manageable by comparison. The limestone bedrock that supports everything from Miami's skyscrapers to the Florida Keys could begin experiencing stress fractures that propagate inland through underground cave systems and aquifers. Groundwater systems throughout southern Florida are already showing signs of disruption. Hydrologists monitoring inland aquifers report unusual pressure variations in flow patterns that coincide with activity in the offshore sinkhole network. Some wells that have provided consistent water supplies for decades are now showing intermittent flow or complete cessation. Other areas are experiencing unexpected freshwater springs or sinkhole formation on land that appears to be connected to the offshore geological instability. The gravity of the situation has drawn global attention. Scientists from the UK, Germany, Japan and Canada are collaborating with US agencies to understand the sinkholes. Satellites monitor temperature, sea levels and unusual surface patterns in real time. Undersea internet cables, shipping lanes and naval operations are all being evaluated for safety. Researchers are investigating whether other limestone-based coastal regions such as the Yucatan Peninsula, parts of the Mediterranean and certain Pacific islands could face similar threats. Florida may be a warning sign for the rest of the world. Thank you for being with us and watching the video. Be sure to like, comment, share the video and subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the channel and press the notification bell icon to get new video updates. Your support is invaluable to us. Thank you.